This is the Qtv Nightly News, which is also on Q Radio 103.3 FM, and I am Jul Denjai. Thank you for joining us. Here are the headlines. At the commissioning parade of the nation's first cohort of 29 locally trained officer cadets, the President and Commander-in-Chief of the Gambia Armed Forces, Adama Barrow, reaffirmed his government's commitment to enhancing domestic military training and fostering a disciplined and professional armed forces. A recent joint statement by civil society organizations has raised concerns over what they described as voter suppression in Yangan village following the confiscation of an Alcalos official stamp. The Federation of Labor Unions of the Gambia was launched on Tuesday, uniting various trade unions under a single umbrella to strengthen workers' representation nationwide. And in international news, Kenya is in focus this week as it hosts the Mashariki Cooperation Conference, bringing together global intelligence leaders to address emerging threats and Africa's security and featuring strong criticism of the African Union's current structure from the Kenyan president. And in sports news, history has been made as for the first time 10 African nations have qualified for the 2026 World Cup, scheduled for June to July and jointly hosted by the United States, Canada and Mexico. Those were the headlines, and now the news in detail. Thank you very much for staying with us. If you're just tuning in, this is the Qtv Nightly News. Now, His Excellency, the President and Commander-in-Chief of the Gambia Armed Forces, President Adama Barrow, has expressed his government's commitment to strengthening in-country military training and building discipline and professional armed forces. He made the statement at the commissioning parade of the country's first ever locally trained 29 officer cadets at a ceremonial parade at the Makati Square in Banjul. Aliou Cisse reports.
Dressed in military attire symbolizing his role as Commander-in-Chief of the Gambia Armed Forces, President Barrow presided over the event. It featured a parade by the newly trained officers of this commissioning course 01 after an intensive 6-month training program. The event continued at the State House, where the commissioned officers, accompanied by the Army High Command and family members, underwent the symbolic peeping ceremony and oath-taking, officially receiving their lieutenant and second lieutenant ranks respectively. The Chief of Defense Staff of the Gambia Armed Forces, Lieutenant General Mohamed O.A. Cham, described the moment as historic and a significant shift from years of reliance on foreign training institutions.
What we are witnessing this morning is therefore not simply the end of a course, but the result of years of deliberate effort, careful planning, and a firm belief in our own capacity. At the same time, it marks the beginning of a new chapter, one which we expect will grow into a fully fledged military academy and a center of excellence for the Gambia Armed Forces and other security services in the near future.
President Barrow reaffirmed his government's commitment to strengthening in-country military training and career development, while highlighting discipline, sacrifice, and loyalty as essential qualities for national service.
I charge you to uphold the highest standards of good citizenship, professionalism, discipline, and integrity. Live up to the values instilled in you and lead with compassion. Your soldiers and rating will watch you closely for admiration, emulation, or otherwise. So match your words with actions and conviction. Always place the nation's interests above self and delegate yourselves to safeguarding its sovereignty and territorial integrity.
President pledged continued support for the welfare and well-being of men and women in uniform in recognition of their sacrifices. He urged them to uphold high standards of patriotism and always place national interests above personal gain.
Our goal is to ensure that service to the nation is justly rewarding and worthwhile. I assure you all that the government takes pride in our security personnel, and we will continue to support capacity building, infrastructural development, and the welfare of our citizens in uniform. To you, the graduating cadets, we express our heartiest congratulations. Be proud of the moment and the training. I enjoin you to, however, to remember that you are being initiated into a noble and long-standing tradition of officers and heroes who defended our motherland with unmatched dedication, sacrifice, and courage.
The commissioning course conducted at the Gambia Armed Forces Training School in Fajara is structured to transform cadets into professional, competent, and ethically grounded leaders. It blends foundational soldiering skills with advanced technical and leadership development. Reporting for QTV News, I am Aliou Cisse.
Congratulations to them. Now, a recent joint statement by civil society organizations, Gambia Participates, and the Election Watch Committee has raised concerns over what they describe as voter suppression in Yangen village following the seizure of an Alcalo's official stamp. The government, however, says the move was necessary to protect the integrity of the ongoing supplementary voter registration process. Usman Jatta has the details.
An attestation is a document certified by a village alcalo or district SAFO. It allows citizens without formal identification to register and participate in elections, amongst other things. As the Independent Electoral Commission intensifies its supplementary voter registration, attestation remains one of the legal requirements for voter registration under the Gambia's Election Act 2025. In villages like Nyajan in the Central River Region South, where access to national ID cards or birth certificates is limited, attestation is often the only pathway to registration. But controversy recently emerged after the government confirmed it has temporarily seized the Alcalo stamp. For an attestation to be legal, it must carry this stamp. The Nyani district, where the Nyajan is located, is part of the CRR, which has a total population of 147,000 based on previous data, and the region is characterized as predominantly rural and Fula speaking. In a statement issued by the Ministry of Information, authorities say the decision to seize the stamp to safeguard the credibility of the voter registration process followed allegations that the stamp had been misused after being entrusted to the Alcalo's son. However, civil society groups argue there is no clear evidence of wrongdoing. The government statement says, having been alerted to claims of improper use of the stamp to quote, the governor of the Central River region convened a meeting with key local authorities, including the Alcalo of Nyajan village, the district SAFO, senior SAFOLO, and the deputy governor to establish the facts surrounding the matter. During the meeting, the Alcalo confirmed that he had entrusted the village stamp to his son, raising concerns about oversight and proper custodianship of official administrative instruments. To preserve public confidence and ensure neutrality during the voter registration period, authorities have since withdrawn the stamp and placed it under secure custody. Consultations are now underway between the district SAFO and village elders to appoint a suitable and impartial custodian while the issue remains under review. In their joint statement, Gambia Participates and Election Watch Committee says the action could prevent eligible voters from registering, effectively denying them their constitutional right to vote. They also claim the decision may be politically motivated, an allegation the government had not addressed directly. Observers note that it is not common in the Gambia for village heads to entrust official stamps to relatives, particularly due to age or literacy challenges. Meanwhile, the government maintains that official instruments must be used strictly for lawful administrative purposes, regardless of local practices, and that they remain the property of the state. With limited time for registration in some areas, Concerns remain that affected residents could miss the opportunity to register before the deadline. The civil society groups are now calling for the immediate return of the stamp and urging authorities to resolve disputes through legal channels such as the revising courts. The dispute highlights broader challenges around voter registration in rural Gambia, balancing electoral integrity with equal access to democratic process. Osman Chata, QTV News.
The Federation of Labour Unions of the Gambia was launched on Tuesday, bringing together various trade unions under a single umbrella in a significant move to strengthen workers' representation across the Gambia. Yafatu Gay tells us more.
The establishment and legal registration of FLOG stands as a bold declaration that workers in the Gambia are ready to speak with one voice, act with one purpose, and define with unwavering commitment the rights, dignity, and welfare of all working people.
The newly launched Federation of Labour Unions of the Gambia brings together registered unions under a single platform to promote unity, democratic values, and protect workers' rights. The launch comes at a time when concerns such as the rising cost of living, youth unemployment, fair wages, and social protection are becoming increasingly urgent. Speakers at the event emphasized the need for stronger and more unified voice to effectively address these challenges. Omar Sise was introduced as the interim president of the Federation.
We are here today to start to advocate together, work together, represent together, measure each and workers when anywhere you are, your voice will be heard.
Solidarity forever, solidarity forever.
Representing the International Trade Union Confederation Africa, Max Conte described the formation of FLUG as timely, noting that African workers continue to face numerous challenges that require strong and effective union representation.
By coming together to establish this federation, you are answering history's urgent call, the call for trade union unity. In the face of global economic challenges and the shifting world of work, no union can afford to stand alone.
Modke Sise, the Minister of Trade, Industry, Regional Integration and Employment, and Nyalo Barrow, Commissioner of Labour, assured participants of their willingness to work closely with the Federation.
The establishment of this federation is a direct affirmation of the constitutional right of every Gambian citizen to freedom of association, the right to organize, and the right to collective bargain for fair wages and decent working conditions.
I want to assure you our collaborations and the support with you in this is in strengthening industrial relations in the Gambia.
The coming together of labour unions under one umbrella, such as the Federation of Labour Unions of the Gambia, is expected to strengthen workers' representation nationwide. By uniting, unions gain stronger bargaining powers to negotiate better wages, working conditions and protection. Reporting for QTV News, this is Yafatu Gay.
That report there takes us for a commercial break. When we return, we have more national, international, as well as sports news stories for you. Do stay tuned. Welcome back, and this is QTV News, and I am Jul Denjai. Now to the rest of our stories. The Gambia Society of Microbiology commemorated International Biomedical Laboratory Science Day to highlight the critical role laboratory medicine plays in healthcare delivery in the Gambia and across the globe. Mam Nabuka has the rest of the story.
The day was commemorated in collaboration with the West African Postgraduate College of Medical Laboratory Science Iowa Biomedical Science Students Association, and the American Society of Microbiology UTG Students Chapter. Established in 1996 by the International Federation of Biomedical Laboratory Science and observed annually on April 15th, the International Biomedical Laboratory Science Day aims to raise public awareness of the indispensable contributions of laboratory professionals to healthcare systems worldwide. The event commenced with a march past along Keraba Avenue to Alliance Française, where participants showcased educational materials to raise public awareness about the complexities of laboratory science and its direct impact on patient outcomes. Biomedical scientists analyze samples to support accurate diagnosis and play a key role in disease surveillance, outbreak monitoring, and preventing the spread of infectious diseases. Dr. Hadiba is the president of the West African Postgraduate College of Medical Laboratory Science and chief scientist at the Edward Francis Small Teaching Hospital.
There is an urgent need to invest in laboratory infrastructure, strengthen workforce quality and capacity, promote continuous professional development, and support research and innovation in biomedical sciences. We also take this opportunity to encourage young people to consider careers in biomedical laboratory science. It is a profession that combines science, service, and impact, offering a unique opportunity to contribute meaningfully to society and global health.
Dr. Ibrahim Umaru Fewudu, senior lecturer at the University of the Gambia School of Medicine and Allied Health Sciences Community Medicine Department, is the guest speaker of the event.
Health without medical laboratory is all a guesswork. And in medical laboratory, we don't guess. We are accurate and we are precise. And when our results are out, it speaks the volume that patient care is successful.
Moro Minte, Secretary General of the Gambia Society of Microbiology, urged fellow scientists to remember that their value is measured not by visibility, but by the impact of their contributions.
Medical laboratory science is the backbone of modern healthcare service. Today, it is widely known that over 70% of all medical decisions are based on laboratory results. This means that before a diagnosis is confirmed, before treatment is prescribed, before lives are saved, laboratory professionals has already played a critical role. From the smallest clinic to the largest research institutions, our contributions are present in every accurate diagnosis and every effective treatment plan.
The commemoration reaffirmed the vital role of biomedical laboratory science in strengthening healthcare systems, advancing diagnostics, and supporting national health security in the Gambia and beyond. The event concluded with the announcement of a historic milestone set for April 29th and 30th, the establishment of the Gambia's first College of Postgraduate Medical Laboratory Scientists. Mamna Buka, reporting for QTV News.
Coming up next is international news. Now, Kenya has taken center stage this week as it hosts the Mashariki Cooperation Conference, a 5-day gathering of global intelligence leaders focused on tackling emerging geopolitical threats and reshaping Africa's security framework. And it featured strong criticism of the African Union's current structure from the Kenyan president. Yafatu Gay has the details.
Here's Kenya's President, William Ruto.
I can tell you without an iota of doubt that African Union, as is today, is not fit for purpose, is not fit to provide the leadership that this continent needs going into the future. And therefore, there is need for the reform of the African Union.
That comment set the tone for the 2026 Mashariki Cooperation Conference, themed Emerging Geopolitical Dynamics and Africa's Security Architecture, which brought together top political leaders, intelligence chiefs, and global security experts. It saw representatives from 15 to 20 East African nations. Speakers emphasized the urgent need to adopt artificial intelligence in intelligence gathering and counter-terrorism, describing it as a critical tool for detecting and preventing attacks. Climate change was also highlighted as a growing driver of conflict, with experts pointing to resource scarcity and displacement as emerging triggers of instability. The summit further raised alarm over misinformation and illicit financial flows, which leaders say are accelerating violence across the continent. Speakers stressed that conflict is not inevitable, but are the results of human decisions and can be resolved through dialogue and cooperation. Kenya's President William Ruto used the platform to advance his reform agenda.
That as a continent and as a people, we must begin to believe in ourselves. We must believe in this continent. In this continent, there is enough for us to prosper. There is enough for us to grow wealth, create jobs, create opportunities, and develop our continent.
As the conference concluded, and taking the President Ruto's call to heart, it did so with raised expectations that concrete strategies will emerge to strengthen Africa's security and increasingly complex global landscape. Reporting for QTV News, this is Yafatu Gay.
That report there takes us to sports news. Now, history has been made as for the very first time, 10 African nations have qualified for the World Cup. The milestone was sealed by the Democratic Republic of Congo, who defeated Jamaica in the Intercontinental Playoff, marking their return to the tournament after more than 50 years. Taking the groups alphabetically, Ade Drame takes a look at where Africa's teams find themselves following the draw.
We start with South Africa, who are in Group A alongside one of the three co-hosts, Mexico, as well as South Korea and the Czech Republic, in what looks like a competitive but evenly balanced group. Group B is one of the two groups without any African representation and features co-hosts Canada, as well as Bosnia and Herzegovina, Qatar and Switzerland. Morocco, in Group C, will be feeling very confident after the historic run in Qatar in 2022, and they face Brazil, Scotland and Haiti. They would expect to progress from this group and on to the next round. Group D is also without African representation and includes another of the co-hosts, the United States, as well as Paraguay, Australia and Turkey. Ivory Coast are in Group E, having been drawn with Germany, Ecuador and Curaçao, the latter being the surprise qualifiers from the Caribbean region. As with Morocco, the Ivory Coast would expect to progress from this group. In a tough-looking Group F, Tunisia will take on the Netherlands, Japan and Sweden. This is one of those groups that really looks too tight to call. In Group G, Egypt, with Mohamed Salah likely making his final World Cup appearance, will battle it out against opponents Belgium, Iran and New Zealand. And Egypt would expect to progress also beyond the group stage. World Cup debutants Cabo Verde face a huge challenge in Group H, up against Spain, Uruguay and Saudi Arabia. It's a daunting task for the West African island nation, but one that captures the romance and the imagination of this expanded African presence at the World Cup. African champion Senegal will meet France again in Group I alongside Norway and Iraq, and it will rekindle memories of Senegal's famous 2002 victory over France, and they will believe that they can mount a serious challenge once again. Algeria, in Group J, will face defending champions and favourites Argentina and Jordan, another of the surprise qualifiers who are also making their World Cup debut. In Group K, DR Congo, the final African qualifiers via their playoff win against Jamaica, will face Portugal, Colombia and Uzbekistan. And DR Congo last appeared at the World Cup in 1974 when the country was still known as Zaire. And finally, Ghana in Group L will take on England, who qualified without conceding a single goal as well as Croatia and Panama. Here's what Dr. Patrice Motsepe, the president of the Confederation of African Football, hopes will be the dream scenario for Africa at this year's World Cup.
Said, President, we may have 2 African nations in the final of the World Cup. Now I must start by saying, Inshallah, please can I see you in the final?
With 10 teams involved, Africa arrives at this World Cup with unprecedented depth and growing belief. So expect flair, intensity and, as we heard from Dr. Motsepe, for some of the African teams to make a real impact on the global stage. For QTV News, I am Ade Darame.
Well, that report there brings us to the end of this news bulletin. Do join us again tomorrow at 8 p.m. for another news bulletin. Until then, it's a bye from us.